Well, I'm sure glad you tuned in to our devotional for today. And I hope that my comments today, some of them will echo my sermon on the giftings that God has given to us all. That they will continue to stimulate you to think about your own giftings, what you may have already received from God, and perhaps other things that He wants to activate in your life. For it is the Holy Spirit who does it. As I mentioned on Sunday, there's 3 and perhaps 4 lists in the New Testament of the spiritual gifts. And one of them is called the supernatural gifts. And these are the gifts that we're not born with. These are gifts that God gives. First of all, He gives them for the church, and they are in the church, such that when we get together to pray for someone who needs healing or who needs guidance or who needs a breakthrough or who needs emotional or personality healings, then he can guide the team. Because I think that that's the best operating procedure that the Lord has. He wants the church as a body to be part of each other's coming to health, becoming empowered, discerning their place in the church, and so on. The team helping and praying over one another. So the supernatural gifts of the Spirit are anointings that He gives to us. And then the Apostle Paul talks in Romans chapter 12, there's another list of gifts. And that list has only 7 in it. And they all look sort of ordinary in a way. Mercy, leading, contributing, exhorting or encouraging, teaching, service. All of those look like things that anyone can do. And that's why they're called the motivational gifts. It's like they piggyback on the qualities, the personality wiring that we have, and then led by the Spirit and activated by the Holy Spirit, these personality gifts that we have become another tool for the Lord to use. Then there's a third list of gifts in Ephesians chapter 4, and they are what are called the office gifts. And so they're commonly called the fivefold ministry gifts. And yet, my Bible, and I think the Greek too, sort of joins with the conjunction pastor, teacher. The fivefold gifts are apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher. So if pastor and teacher are 2 different gifts, then there are 5. But if they're a hyphenated gift, if pastors are supposed to be teachers, in other words, then there's 5 gifts. In our time, and another comment I want to make about these 3 lists of gifts is that when you look at them, there is some overlapping. Like the word prophet is part of each of those 3 lists. But yet, others like apostle and evangelist and so on are not listed. And then among the supernatural gifts too, there's a bunch of gifts that aren't listed in 1 Corinthians 12 that are found in Romans chapter 12. What does that imply? I think it implies that none of these gifts, none of these lists are definitive. That is to say, they're not exhaustive. They're not so specific that there's not yet other manifestations of the Holy Spirit that He might bring to bear on a need or a situation in your life or mine. And of course, because we're unique and have different personalities anyway, all of us do, then the way we express that gift may look different than what we thought or what somebody told us that gift was supposed to look like. The important thing is that we're available. We want those gifts to be manifested in our lives for the good, the common good, as 1 Corinthians 12 says, for the building up of the body, as it says in Ephesians 4, and also in 1 Corinthians 14. So, apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher, these are what's called the office gifts. That is to say, these are the people that God has raised up to exercise leadership for the good, the common good of the church. And so this doesn't mean, and this was true in the early church. So we're not talking about when Paul specified or chose leaders to take the lead and protect the flock and so on in the various congregations which are small when they were started, of course, all across the Mediterranean. None of them were seminary trained or anything. These were people who were just had the Holy Spirit and had an obvious calling from God on their lives, both to know Jesus and preach the gospel, and Paul instructed his colleagues in ministry, Silas and Titus and Barnabas and others, to choose mature people, elders, mature people, and they were called overseers or elders. But God has gifted the church with leaders. They're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But we're pressing on to serve the Lord, fulfill our calling, and our gifts and the manifestations of the Spirit are filtered through our imperfect personalities and other things. But God, who is perfect, uses imperfect people. This is a great mystery, but it's an incarnational reality. You are gifted, and you can get to know better the precious Holy Spirit that the Father and Jesus sent, and to indwell the church and to empower the church to grow both numerically and spiritually. So these are my thoughts for today.